Hey guys, we have a topic that is kind of a sidebar, but it's one that Aaron gets questions about constantly.
All the time.
What is it, Aaron?
It's how do you track alcohol, right? What is it when you're tracking it? Because it's like the one thing we haven't talked about yet here. Okay,
It's tricky.
it's tricky. Okay, and again, here's I always laugh at this. I don't drink, and it's not for any important reason. I hate the taste, right? Like every single time I have anything with alcohol in it, right? And
Same
I know,
for coffee for you.
Same for coffee, right? It's so
I'm like, what?
so easy to not have calories that I drink, but I know that for the majority of people that I work with, they love enjoying a glass of wine, or maybe they go out and have drinks with friends and kind of do whatever. So we know it's important, and it absolutely is worth tracking. Okay, absolutely is worth tracking. So typically, alcohol counts as a carb. Okay, calorie-wise, it sets up a little differently, but I will kind of have people interchange it with their carbohydrate or potentially a fat.
Okay.
And the idea is that there's not a separate like, oh, you also get an alcohol a day. It just falls into either a carbohydrate or a fat. And so if you're kind of playing the budget game, right? So let's say that if I'm talking about a guy, right, that they get 8 carbohydrates a day and 8 fats in a day, 8 kind of servings. If they know they're going to go out and have a couple of drinks, one of the strategies that I'll say is, okay, just make sure you're saving 2, right? Save 2 hash marks, one of carbs, one of fat. Save 2 fats.
Sure.
Save whatever. And so I think you had mentioned like having pizza, and you wanted to like make sure there was room for it, and you can actually do that too, right? That's something you can do with alcohol. And even if you haven't made room for it, if you have a drink, it just cross a little bubble off, right? Like again, not on protein or vegetables. It doesn't quite work that way, but specifically your carbohydrates or your fats, just cross one of those off. It doesn't matter. Usually if you have room in one, that's typically where you're going to take it off of, because you're like, oh, I've not had as much fat today, something like that. Just going to get Wally. I'm going to keep chatting. Okay. So as far as like, how do you measure it, right? Because you're thinking alcohol, it's not the size of my thumb. It's not the size of my palm. And so what I'll tell people is whatever your standard pour is, so if you go to a restaurant and you order a glass of wine, count that as your serving size. Again, it doesn't matter if it's 120 calories or 200, just be consistent with it. Whatever you have, just count it as a serving, but be smart about it, okay? If you are drinking, we went to a place with my family where they served, it was beer in a boot. Yeah. That does not count as one. Like you have to be reasonable with yourself, right? If you are having a prowler, like if you're drinking an entire jug of alcohol, you have to be smarter than that, right? Have whatever you're gonna have, that's fine. But as far as tracking it, be reasonable, right? Just because it comes in a 3-foot tall glass does not mean that that's one serving, right? Like you know this, right? Is kind of how it goes. So again, just include it if you want. Like I said, there's room for alcohol. Absolutely, there is in your goals. A lot of people, it's a tricky spot. It's kind of like what we talked about with their carbs. It's easy to overdo it. Alcohol is very easy to add calories. In fact, a little side note, there are, I would say probably close to a majority of my clients who, when they start tracking their alcohol, their weight goes down. It's like the thing that gets it to go down. Wow. Yeah, if it's been tricky anywhere else, they realize, they're like, oh man, like it's just so easy to have a lot of it. And
I think even for me, like when I first started doing this, I had no idea how many calories was in it.
Right.
Like I was like, what? There's that many calories in a glass of wine? What?
Yeah. And if you're having fun, you're social,
which is fine. Yeah, but
it's easy to overdo it.
But if my goal is to try to get a little more lean, then I need to think about that within the context of my portions.
Yeah. So again, we get this question a lot, and again, it's a great question. Where does alcohol fit in? It totally fits in. Again, take one of your servings for carbs away, take one of your servings for fat, track it somehow that way, and then just be reasonable with your pour amounts.
All right. If you guys have questions, we're here for you. We're with you. Just let us know. Okay. Have fun. Bye.